बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम।
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah. Asyhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. Asyhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah. Hayya 'alas salat. Hayya 'alas salat. Hayya 'alal falah. Hayya 'alal falah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. The first verse I want to recite is from chapter 20, verse 124. وَمَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِي فَإِنَّ لَهُ مَعِيشَةً ضَنكًا وَنَحْشُرُهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ أَعْمَى. And whoever turns away from my reminder, some people translate this as my remembrance, for him is surely a hard life, and we shall raise him up blind on the day of resurrection. The next one is chapter 7, verse 2. Kitabun unzila ilayka fala yakun fi sadrika harajun minhu litunzira bihi wa zikra lil mu'minin. And a book revealed to you. So let there be no tightness in your breast concerning it, that you may warn with it, and a reminder to the believers. And the next one is chapter 21, verse 10. لَقَدْ أَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكُمْ كِتَابًا من فيه ذكركم أفلا تعقلون. Certainly we revealed to you a book which will give you eminence. Do you not then understand? Sadaqallahul Aliyyul Azim. The last verse that I recited, which was certainly we have revealed to you a book which will give you eminence, that gives us the purpose of the revelation of the Holy Quran. And it tells us that, but it doesn't mean that if you have a Holy Quran in the house and we never open it, we never look at it, we never seek guidance from it, we just wrap it in silk covers and put it on the top shelf, that it will make us eminent. What it means is that if you faithfully and sincerely follow it, then you will become eminent. As we saw with the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and after him, his companions. But the thing is this, you see, before you can follow an instruction or guidance, you have to understand what that guidance is. We were in United States and using a GPS system, and whoever had used it before had set it to some other language. I don't know, French or Spanish or something. And came to the first crossing, and it gave an instruction in that crossing, but at that crossing, whatever it was, turn right, turn left, go straight or whatever. Now, as we didn't know what language it was, we had no idea. So we had to stop and we had to reset it to English and then start all over again. And that is the point, that people learn the Quranic alphabet, they learn to read it, they have no understanding of what it's saying. Just like we came up to this crossing and the GPS said something and we had no idea what it was. What most people do is learn a few chapters at the back, a few short chapters, learn them by heart so that they can recite them in prayers. If that's the extent, of your knowledge and understanding of the Holy Quran, how are you going to follow it? And really, the first verse says, and whoever turns away from the reminder, this is what you're doing. You're turning away from the reminder. You say, oh, well, it's okay, I don't need to do that. I don't need to fully understand the Holy Quran. I can go to Imam X or Imam Y or Maulvi this or Maulvi that, and he'll tell me what it says. What does the Quran say? You've turned away from the reminder, and that will make your life hard. Because there are many ways of looking at that. If you know the Quran, if you understand the Quran, and you turn to it, it's like seeking help from Allah. Whatever your difficulty, whatever your problem, you know that there is a power that will help you. But if you're going to depend on someone else, you don't know. You don't know how much knowledge they have of the Holy Quran. Then what some other people do is to maybe they read a translation of the Holy Quran by someone, and then say, well, I understand the Holy Quran. But the point is the translation of the Holy Quran is an interpretation by an individual. He may be learned. He may be very sincere. He may have done his best. I'm not saying that whatever Mr. X or Mr. Y or Maulana A or B has said in their translations and interpretation is wrong, but it's still human interpretation. This is how they understand it. The question is, does the Quran just want you to blindly follow someone else's interpretation? If that's the case, then elsewhere, does it, the verse that I recited just now, they turn away from my reminder, and life for them is very hard. And in the hereafter, they will be blind because they haven't gained the insight. They haven't gained the insight into what the Holy Quran wanted them to understand. And then some people go a little further and they read the commentary, the tafsir. But tafsir is even more an individual's interpretation, someone else's interpretation of what the Holy Quran says. The least they can do, I suppose, is to read 4 or 5. If you're a Sunni, read the Shia interpretation as well, Shia tafsir as well, see what they say. And I have to say that the Shia tafsir that I have is far superior to most Sunni tafsirs we find on the market. But it will give you that, there are some things that Shia say and Sunnis just laugh at them and say, how stupid are the Shias that, they believe in this and so on. But if you read their commentary and the way they justify it, you find that there is some rationale behind it. You may not agree with it, but rather than just poke fun at these things, it gives you the reasons why they believe this thing. It improves your understanding of the Holy Quran. But if we read the Holy Quran, just one verse of the Holy Quran, take all the different meanings of each word, and then try and string them together and see whether we can come up with new guidance, different guidance, a new understanding of the Holy Quran. We can add to that if you look at history in Hadith and find the context in which the verse of the Holy Quran was revealed. We'll get a much better understanding of what the Holy Quran is saying and the guidance it's trying to provide. I'll use an illustration. It's not strictly The whole of it is not in the Holy Quran, but it's an example of how we perhaps not misunderstand, but certainly limit and constrain the meaning of Islamic law. The example I want to use is the in inheritance law in Islam. It is said that you can only give away in charity 1/3 of your estate. And this is based on an incident in the life of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A man went to him and said, "O Prophet of Allah, I want to give everything I have. I want to give away in charity in my will." And the Holy Prophet said, "It's too much. Don't do it." So the man said, "Okay, I will give away in charity 75% of everything I own." And the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallam said, "This is too much." And then the man said, "Okay, I will give away 50% in charity." And again the Holy Prophet said, "This is too much." And he kept coming down until the man said, "Okay, I'll give away 1/3 of my wealth to charity, and the rest I'll leave for my relatives." And so on. The Holy Prophet said, "That's fine." And then he added, "It's not piety that you leave your own family in poverty and you give everything away to others." Now, what has happened is that Muslims have taken the 1/3 that the Holy Prophet approved, that you can't leave more than 1/3 of your estate to charity. And they forget about the sentence that followed. It's not piety that you leave your family poor or in poverty and give away all your wealth in charity. Well, let's take the example, my favorite example, Bill Gates. He's worth several $billion. As you know, in America, you have to pay for education. It's not free. And many people, if they want to go to university and so on, they have to take out loans. And they end up with a huge loan by the time they have graduated from university. Bill Gates paid for his children's education. And then he paid for their weddings. And then he bought them a house. So there's no mortgage, they don't have to pay any mortgage. And then I think he gave $10 million. And with the rest, he set up a charity. Now, what would you say about him? You would say, well, he set up a charity with 99% perhaps, or even more, 99.9% of his estate, and only gave such a small amount to his children. This is un-Islamic, because Islam says you can't give more than 1/3. But people forget about the following sentence, as I said. It is not piety that you leave your family in want and you say, I'm giving everything to charity. If you take that principle, is he leaving his children in want? Are his children poor? They don't have a debt for their university education. He paid for it. They don't have any other kinds of debts. They don't have a mortgage. He bought them houses, cash. So there is no mortgage on them. And he has given them, I think it's $10 million. Are they in want? I would say that what he has done is perfectly Islamic. And this thing that you can't give away more than 1/3 of your estate to charity is a narrow interpretation. That 1/3 was in relation to that man's circumstances, how much he had. This is why when he said, I'll give 75%, the Holy Prophet said, no, it's too much. When he said 50%, the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, no, it's too much. He was giving him advice related to his own personal circumstances. That 1/3 wasn't a general rule or general law that the Holy Prophet was dictating. The general rule that can be applied for all time that the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallam was dictating was, it's not piety that you leave your own family in want and give away all your money to other people. But for 1400 years, 1500 years, all books on inheritance law, Islamic inheritance law, say you cannot give away more than 1/3 of your estate to charity. The point I'm making is this, that this has arisen because we have stopped thinking. We just pick up a book and say, oh, A, B, C, D said this, and that's it. This is Islamic law. But even with the Holy Quran, there is another example I always use, and that is that Muslims say that Islam allows husbands to beat their wives if the wives are disobedient. And this, they quote this verse from Surah Nisa, that if there's a disagreement, then talk to them, then separate your beds, then beat them, and then, even if that doesn't work, then appoint people to arbitrate between you. One from his family, one from her family. And that never made any sense to me. That never made any sense to me. Because how is this going to work? You've tortured this woman, you've beaten her, and she still hasn't listened to you. And now there's going to be an arbitration. What's the first thing that the wife going to say? I hate him, he hates me. I'm not going to do what he says. I'm not going to reconcile. Look at it another way. If torture and beating hasn't forced her to do what you want, what's arbitration going to do? So it doesn't make sense. The sequence doesn't make sense. But for 1400 years, Muslims believed this. Pick up any interpretation of the Holy Quran and any translation of the Holy Quran, whatever sect it belongs to, and it will say this. And because I have noticed one thing, and that is that if something doesn't appeal to your common sense, it cannot be Islamic teaching in the Holy Quran. And I found that the word used there, daraba, yes, it does mean beat and hit, but it also means to give examples. In another place in the Holy Quran, it says daraballah. How would you translate that? Allah's beatings, or the examples given by Allah to illustrate a point. And it also means to send, to move away, to separate. So let's go back to that. That if your marital relations break down, try and sort them out by talking. Next step, if that doesn't work, live in separate rooms and keep on trying. This is husband and wife trying on their own. If even that doesn't work, then the next verse should be not that you beat them, but you separate. And then it makes sense to say, she appoints someone from her family, you appoint someone from your family, and they get together and they try and effect a reconciliation. Now the sequence makes sense. How did trying to get reconciliation make sense after you've been beating your wife? But this will only happen. This can only happen. A new understanding can only come if you go back to the original source. And if you don't go back to the original source, you solely rely on some translation or tafsir, then the first verse applies to you. And whoever turns away from my reminder, the translation that says beat her is not God's reminder, it's some interpreter's reminder or translator's reminder. And you've turned away from God's reminder. And whoever turns away from my reminder for him is surely a hard life. And we shall raise him up blind on the day of resurrection. That is, on the day of resurrection, he wouldn't have seen what God's guidance was, what God was telling human beings to do. And again, the next verse, a book revealed to you, so let there be no tightness in your breast concerning it, that you may warn thereby. I interpret that, let there be no tightness in your breast, to mean that you shouldn't limit and restrict the meanings of verses and words of the Holy Quran. You should be open. You should be open to thinking and accepting, if appropriate, new meanings and new interpretations of the Holy Quran. And it is only after we do that that the next verse will apply, which says, certainly we have revealed to you a book which will give you eminence. That will only happen if we keep the Holy Quran relevant to the time and age that we are living in. Because if we don't, we'll still be making laws about where to tie up our camels when we go shopping at Asda's, rather than what speed we should drive at, or we should stop at a red traffic light and go at a green traffic light. And there's one last thing, and that is, don't insist that your new meaning or interpretation is now the correct one. Present it as research to people. I have done research and I've come to this conclusion. Like I've done research and I've come to the conclusion that the Holy Prophet Muhammad could read and write. If you agree with me, well, I'm glad. Thank you very much. If you don't agree with me, that's fine as well. That's your conclusion. Don't become restrictive and prescriptive that I've done this and I've spent 3 months on that, so I must be right and no one else can be right. This is the only way in which knowledge and understanding can advance and develop And most importantly, keep the Holy Quran and Islam relevant to every age and every country. Without that, it will just become, I don't know, a book of stories and fables that people will bring out on weddings and other occasions to bless that occasion rather than actually seeking guidance from it in their daily lives. Barakallahu lana wa lakum fil Quranil Azim wa nafa'ana wa iyyakum bil ayati wa zikril hakim. Innahu ta'ala jawadun karimun malikun barraufur rahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayhi wa na'udzu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. Man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlilhu fala hadiya lahu. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم انصر من نصر دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم واجعلنا منهم اللهم اخذل من خذل دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ولا تجعلنا منهم عباد الله رحمكم الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان إيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون اذكروا الله يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya salah, hayya falah. Qaqamat salah, qaqamat salah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
I just want to remind everyone, please pray for all those who may be sick or in difficulty, etc. Especially our brothers, Brother Jalil in Italy, and our brothers and sisters in Cuba, etc. They are all in need of our prayers. And of course, our center in Pakistan. Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen Ar-Rahmanir Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in Ihdinas siratal mustaqim Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين ألهاكم التكاثر حتى زرتم المقابر كلا سوف تعلمون كلا سوف تعلمون ثم كلا سوف تعلمون كلا لو تعلمون علم اليقين لترون الجحيم ثم لترونها عين اليقين ثم لتسألن يومئذ عن النعيم. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده.
ربنا
الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين
آمين.
والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده.
ربنا
الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah. Astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, This concludes our Friday service. I hope you found it useful and not too boring. Our next broadcast is going to be on Monday, when we will, inshallah, continue with the Dabarul Quran at 7 p.m. UK time and reflections on the Holy Quran, 7:30 UK time. Until then, I pray that Allah keeps all of you safe and sound and free from harm. Assalamu alaikum, Khuda Hafiz, and goodbye.